Probably using coal. We're just messing around like we are today. Then I'm going to use wood. If I'm running a threshing machine, I'll probably use wood as well. Some people actually burn straw, the byproduct, because they used it for bedding for the animals, but they also burn straw in it. Those are called straw burners. Slight modification to this firebox. Sometimes people burn wood, and that's special grates for wood. Our engines are set up for coal, but it'll still work okay with wood. So this firebox, where this fire is completely encased with water. So picture spokes on a wheel. This is the hub, the middle, and then there's rods coming down like spokes, suspending this big steel box that's full of fire with water. And then the steam, the smoke comes out of it, comes around. I'll show you guys in a little bit the front. Runs through the length of this machine, and then comes out the stack in the front. So all this is a boiler that makes steam. Then these components over here on this side, I'll come over and see this. Yeah. I don't know, a couple, 3 weeks, I can't remember for sure. They invited us, but I got too much going on. You can't go to all the shows. So the steam comes out of this tall portion, like a little barrel sitting up on top of it. That's called a steam dome. That's where the steam migrates, and it's considered dry steam. The water level is down in here, and then you don't want water, you only want steam. Then the steam comes in through a pipe up here. You have a manual throttle, like a valve, that opens and closes the steam that I operate from back there. And this gizmo here is called a governor. So you manually open it wide open. But if I have it on a separator, threshing oats like a stationary combine, or from sawing wood or something, you're going to want to have a specific RPM, revolutions per minute. So this will maintain like 250 RPM. That's what that does. If you're pulling really hard, those little steel balls that are spinning around, it's called a fly ball governor. It's pulling really hard, those balls go out. In a later period of time, they put a steel enclosure around it. So somebody tells you that these people are working really hard, they got balls to the walls, you're talking about that. We're talking about the steel balls on the fly governor, and when it's pulling really hard, like I said, they're out, they're up against the steel walls. That means it's pulling hard. It's nothing nasty, it's just about how it's pulling. Then that steam goes into here. There's a piston in here, one piston, and it injects steam from the back side to this side, then to this side, back and forth. There's a valve that opens for steam to come in, and then there's a valve that opens for the exhaust to come out. And that's where you get your movement back and forth. Then the exhaust comes out of the piston here, comes in through here, shoots into this, what we call the smoke box on the front, and then that steam, because it's hot, the byproduct, goes up the stack, creating an air draft like a fan. So when you really get to pulling these, the smoke and the steam will be going straight up in the air with great force, really loud. And then that pulls that air right across that fire, which makes your fire a lot hotter. So that's pretty interesting. They're really a pretty simple system. You just come around here in the front, you don't want to get over there past me, it's wet. So I can open this up for a minute here. You can see, you can kind of hear it, it's breathing. So like I was saying, the smoke comes out of here. These pipes are called tubes. Your exhaust is up here, sucks it up there, and that's what it's doing. It's sucking in air and pulling. That's where the smoke comes through. That's called the smoke box. Every company has a logo. John Deere has the deer. Advance, they called it the banner boy. So this would be like early before Civil War was what they're saying, because that'd be what the end of that is 1860 roughly. So early on, Advance is a really early company building steam. So their logo is the banner boy. So it's the boy carrying the flag going into battle. And he's got right on it, Advance. So they're talking about battle. That's why they named it Advance. Our engine's so tough, it's going into battle. So that was their logo, which went away when Rumley bought it. So this machine is built by Advance at the Advance company to Advance specifications, and it's the first year that Rumley bought them out. So then we take the power over into the crankshaft, and then it's got a clutch that makes the gears move the traction movement. This particular size is the size of engine that would have been right here. There were steam engines in Jefferson, Iowa and Greene County, and this is the size they would have had. Our other engines, like the big plowing engine that was in the picture and our 80 case, those would have been used out west when they broke the big wheat fields up. And they call it breaking the soil, and they always called it making the soil smile. We might disagree with that today, but anyway, that's what they called it. They broke it, flipped it over, and they had big plows. We have 2 of those at the farm, and they're called breaker plows, and they were pulled by these massive engines. The 80 case came from up by Minneapolis, ran a huge sawmill and a separator. This engine here, this was sold new by Reno, Nevada. That's where it spent its life, and all it did was saw wood up in the mountains by Reno, Nevada. I bought it at an auction from a collector that bought it from the original location in the 50s, and I bought it from him at his auction, his family. And then it came here. So it was delivered by Advance. Go ahead.
What's the build horsepower and drop-off horsepower?
This one here, so first of all, gas traction like this, this is called a 2550. 25 horsepower draw bar, 50 horsepower on the belt. That's because they're more efficient. Steam is times 3. So the 75 case is the easiest one, the wide wheels in the picture. 25 on the drawbar, 75 on the belt. So they're not near as efficient. These are 50% of their energy to move. This one's using 3/4 of their energy just to move themselves. So this particular engine here, this one's be a 16, whatever, 35 or something like that, you know. The Advance, they did not classify theirs by belt horsepower. They classified by drawbar. So this one they don't say anything about its belt horsepower. They only tell you about their drawbar horsepower. So this is just called a 16. The case became the #1 seller. Part of it is because they badged theirs by the belt horsepower. So when you first see the ad, you know, it would be a 75 instead of a 25. But Advance and Rumley, they only went by drawbar horsepower, so they didn't, you know, people didn't view them as being as heavy or anything. Anybody have any other questions on this? Go ahead. You bet.
What would be the difference between this Rumley traction and Rumley oil?
So the Rumley oil pulls, those are gas traction engines. They lubricate, or they cool with oil. They do not have antifreeze or water in them. They cool with oil. There's a guy, Sinkier Haynes or something like that, that designed the special carburetor to make that tractor run on kerosene or distillate, which is a poor, you know, distillate would be really cheap. Distillate was like 3 cents a gallon. Gas would have been like 30 cents a gallon, so huge price difference. So they started making them, burning them on kerosene. This little international tractor over here, it'll burn kerosene as well. So it went all the way, the kerosene burners all the way from about 1918, 1919 to like, I don't know, 1930s. Because of the cheapness of the fuel. Then later we started using diesel fuel for industrial purposes, making diesel closer to gasoline. So then we went back to gas for a while. And then they ended up going to diesel today. These machines, like I said, were not as efficient. They weighed a lot more per horsepower, and you also had to have, in most states, a licensed engineer to operate it, because these will blow up. So if you run this thing out of water and then you move it, slosh water to the back of the firebox we talked about that's suspended. That top of that firebox is allowed to get bare steel. It becomes what they call superheated. Then the water will come back on it when you move and splash on it. Or if you add water, then that'll splash on it. That will take that superheated steel and turn all the water in this engine. Remember I said your water level's like here. So most of it's water. As soon as that happens, that water hits that superheated steel, turns it all to steam instantaneously. And it'll lift that thing up as high as the trees. What you call a once-in-a-lifetime experience. It's easy to not let it happen. Is don't pull in front of a train. But people will be people, and sometimes it happens. They blew one up 15 years ago in Midian, Ohio. Not a very safe situation. In the state of Iowa, a group of people from Mount Pleasant, Iowa lobbied the legislator, took the power away from the state to license engines in Iowa, and put the burden on the show. So when we had our show, I was responsible legally, so I had to have the insurance for that, because I was the show chairman, I was the show inspection person, I was responsible for any engine on the place, mine and other people's. I was responsible for their operation. So instead of going to read a book, get a license, like they did out there, and most states do, in Iowa, the people that are in charge, they test you. They make sure you're safe, you know what you're doing, and if you're not, then the show chairman has the opportunity to evict you from the ground. It does not matter if we did a show here at this facility, even though this is not technically, but we'll call it publicly owned property. In Iowa, I can still kick you off if I'm the show chairman for steam, because you're unsafe. The engine that blew up, those people had a reputation of being so unsafe that other steam enthusiasts would find out if they were going to a show and they wouldn't go there. But the state gave them a license, so they were legal, and nobody, including the show directors, could do anything about it. But in Iowa, we can police ourselves, and it does happen. I've seen a number of people been asked to leave because there's no flexibility in this hobby. Everybody says today that everybody makes a mistake. Not in this hobby, you don't. There was an old gentleman that I read an article about, and I met him once. He was in his 90s, and somebody had said, well, everybody makes mistakes, and he says, you don't understand. This gentleman would have been born about 1870, 1880. He says, in my world, some things you just don't do, period. He said, when I was a young lad, him and his older brother, his brother was about 12, they were operating a steam engine, they were on the engine, the dad was on the separator, and they were threshing oats. Dad nonchalantly gets off the separator and walks over to see how these boys are doing. They only got just a little bit of water in the sight glass. I'll show you what that is. That tells you how much water's in it. The dad walked over to the oldest son, grabbed him by the scruff of the neck, and threw him down on the ground, pointed his finger at him, and he says, that will never happen again. So this old gentleman at 90-some years old is telling me that I've run engines my whole life, but I guarantee you that's never happened. Because it can't happen. And people need to learn that some things you just can't do. Because it's a safety issue. Any other questions? Anything that might seem silly or not, doesn't matter.
What's the weight of this?
This one here weighs about 12 tons with water in it.
How do you add water to this thing?
Okay, it has an injection system. They're over here. The question was, how do you add water to it? So there's basically two ways with a traction engine. You have a water pump. That pump can be steam operated or gear operated. Those are the nicest. They all have a pump or two injectors. Everything has to have two modes of putting water in it. This machine has two injectors. Some of them will have one pump and one injector, but you have to have two. That's required in the hobby. So if your state license, the state says you have to have it. Here in Iowa, that's another thing that's the show chairman or the show director's duty. As he gets out of here, it's their duty to make sure you modes of add water. Okay, so take the water out of this tank right here. Steam comes in off of our steam dome like I was talking about for dry steam. Comes around through this valve. It goes into this thing that says Penberthy on it. The water comes through here. So you take fill water from the tank. Steam picks it up. It's a really complicated machine. It's really neat. It's velocity over volume. So it'll take the water out of here, create a suction, pull it through this hose. The steam comes in here. The water goes down through this pipe, goes into the front of our boiler. That's how this one adds water with injectors. Like I said, there's 2 of those on this engine. It also has a pressure gauge. It tells you how much pressure it has. On the other side, if you're over there, there's a thing that looks like a big test tube. It's a glass tube, and that tells you how much water it has in it. That's called a sight glass. Then it has these little valves over here that you can open up, and you can see if the water level's there. For me, I don't have to open it up. I can look at it. They're slightly dripping, and I can tell that it's water and not steam. Steam comes out, they call when you're instructing, you tell them it comes out blue. Water comes out white. Well,